Hi, welcome back to Living a Dynamic Life. I'm Miriam Louise Curtis, and if you were here before the break, you will be in suspense, hopefully, listening or getting ready to listen to Dave's story on how he found, I would say, Dave, how you found yourself. So welcome back, Dave.
Hi.
Here goes.
Excellent.
Tell us your story.
The story goes, I wasn't sure about the concept of God. Like I said earlier, in the first half, I had to, if it wasn't in my five senses, if it wasn't in my awareness, then it didn't exist. Or I found it hard to believe it existed. And one day I was talking to an old friend of mine who was actually a Jehovah's Witness, and I found him fascinating because he studied the Bible and lived it to the Word, and we had a lot of fantastic conversations about God and the concepts of God. And he told me something which really pricked my ears up, made me think, and it was about a spider's web. Mm-hmm. And the story goes that a spider who has probably the brains the size of a pinhead, has a brain the size of a pinhead maybe, who isn't consciously aware of itself, can spin something so incredibly intricate without practice, because it'd take me 5 to 10 years to learn how to spin a web.
Probably longer than that, Dave.
Yeah, I'm just boasting now. But yeah, and I thought, wow, if a spider can do that without any practice, instinctively, then there must be something else at work here. How can this? There has to be. And it really got me thinking. I thought about it for a long time, and then from there was more information came my way. I remember at the time as well, I had a very big fear of death, and I wanted to understand that more. And again, synchronicities happened, and I read a few of Neale Donald Walsch's books, Conversations with God. One of them was called Home with God, which was actually about what happened after death, the stages of death. And it kind of alleviated my fear a little bit, but it was still there, it was still in my system. In 2008, a very, very dear friend of mine passed away very suddenly at the age of 41. And it was that led me on to ask quite a lot of questions, quite a lot of deep, profound questions. And I used to go to a synagogue close by who they had, it was a learned friends night. So you went to meet quite a few fantastic people who, some of them were trained to be rabbis, and you went and spoke about any issues or asked questions. And I actually wrote down a list of 15 questions, and I thought, I want these answered. I want to understand why would someone die at 41? What's God's role in all this? And many other questions. And the answers I got, I didn't really get answers. It was suggested that I studied the Torah, and I'll find the answers there. So it kind of left me a bit more confused. But my journey carried on, and I started reading more books, started listening to more clips of people. I started ingesting more information, my awareness increased again, and suddenly I realised that I already had all the answers. I just blocked myself from the answers, and my consciousness was increasing dramatically. I think the Anthony Robbins weekend was probably the kickstart for me. That was what really started my journey off properly, and I just felt myself expanding at the speed of light, consciousness-wise. And now I've got to the point where my fear of death has diminished, and I feel a connection to everybody and nature, and I feel we're all connected and we're all one. And these are things that I've had relayed back to me from some sources, but actually I already knew this, I just didn't know I knew it.
Do you think that's the thing with most people as well? Because a lot of people they always look outside, don't they? And because we're in a material world, it's kind of, I'll get the bigger house, the bigger car, then I'll feel better. And, you know, we might emigrate to Australia or emigrate to such and such a place, and then I'll feel better. But actually, we're all like a snail, and we carry our kind of home on our back. And wherever we go, we've still got to face the problems because they're within. I loved your explanation there when you were saying about kind of becoming more aware, raising your self-consciousness. And I'm assuming you mean within that as well, that obviously you were raising your intuition. So what kind of things did you kind of feel?
I felt as though there was more to life than the body. I felt as though we're not just a body, we are something else. And I've heard many people talking about, being spirit, being an aspect of God, and it didn't kind of, I was trying to intellectually formulate it in my head without actually feeling it. But suddenly I started to feel that this was the case, this is true. And it's almost like a knowingness you can't explain, because there are many people who haven't got that level of consciousness, or aren't aware of that level of consciousnness, who will argue till the cows come home about there's nothing else out there, it's just here, and once you're gone, you're gone. But your soul knows all this information, it already knows it. We just put blocks in place, or we have blocks put in place so that we can learn to remove them and then remember. Because it's not about learning, it's about remembering.
It's about re-remembering, isn't it? And reconnecting. There's a very, very beautiful book, I'm assuming you've read it, it's one of the very good spiritual ones, The Reconnection with Eric Pearl.
Okay.
And I think that we are all here to re-remember our origins. And I loved when you said before as well about connecting more with nature, because many people, it's kind of work, sleep. And this is about changing that, isn't it? And that's what spirituality does. It kind of opens your heart, opens your vessel to receiving in more things.
Yes. I remember having this feeling that I kind of, my intuition suddenly, it was almost like it popped out from nowhere. And having seen evidence of synchronicities, everything was evidence-based for me, so I needed evidence that there was more to life than just this physical body. So the more evidence I kept getting, the more I realised, actually, I've got the proof I need now. I didn't really need the proof, but...
You must have sent it to the universe or God or Allah, when we talk about law of attraction. So you were sending out there, okay, I want proof that God exists, or there's something more to life or something. Yeah. And obviously we are aware that on our DNA, which is obviously active in every cell of our body, they are electromagnetic. And within that electromagnetism, we are radiating that energy out all the time. So if we think doom and gloom, it's on our DNA, it goes out there. You were thinking, I want proof. And obviously you were radiating that back. So what kind of synchronicities matter to you the most now?
I would say that synchronicities don't matter to me as such. They just seem to happen. So all that really matters is to live as happy and peaceful a life as I can, peaceful as possible. The synchronicities are it's just more evidence that we're part of something much bigger. So they don't have to be there. But yeah, my life now is about removing as many barriers as I can to live a happy and peaceful life. And I'm now following my heart and starting to live from my heart. About 5 years ago, I started going to a holistic event in South Manchester. And this is where just people came together and connected, who shared the same interests, the same feelings, who all had, all living a heart-centered life. And a friend of mine said to me, you know what, Dave, you're the sort of person that could run this yourself in North Manchester. And at the time I thought, okay, I just ignored it. I wasn't ready to hear it. And 9 months later, I realised she was right. She actually she planted a seed in my head, and I then created Synchronicity. Synchronicity is a holistic social event where people get together, everyone brings vegetarian food to share, pay £10 to get in, the day lasts 6 hours, and the theme is mainly social and connection and mingling, and it's just heart-centered fun. And throughout the day I have mini workshops, or talks, anything interactive. Now I've introduced dancing and singing, and Mary, yourself, you've done a...
I did, I really enjoyed it, yeah. I did a talk on heart-centered living, yeah.
And it was fantastic. And I'm realising that there is a big call for people to get together who are like-minded and live this kind of heart-centered life. And I just started to feel as though, from that seed planted, that actually I was kind of destined to do this and create this. and it feels great and it feels right.
And you took a very, very brave step last year as well, because you left your Orthodox job.
Yes.
And you kind of felt into your heart, felt into your soul what felt right to you. And how's that panned out for you? Because, you know, that was a big step for you, and releasing the fears and everything else, and going with trust that the universe, Allah, God, was actually going to support you, and actually obviously has done as well.
Yeah, I left my job, my corporate job in December, last December, after a lot of deliberation, because a lot of fear came up through that, and I was going to leave it a few months before, but I had too much fear. So I acknowledged the fear, and I thought, okay, I'm not ready, and I acknowledged that, and I waited, and I waited till December, and I thought, I'm actually ready to take the plunge now, and I wanted to dictate the rules of my own life. I didn't want them dictated to me. I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny, and not just living a treadmill life. I didn't want to work for money. Money is not my motivator. I want to do something that I'm passionate about and that I can help others as well with, and that became my motivating factor, just doing something out of passion.
And it's that altruistic side of you. And I must admit, having attended Synchronicity, obviously to do a talk there and a workshop there, and also to having attended, you know, just as me, you know, without my hat on, without my work hat on, I find it amazing. And I find that when you're with heart-centered people, you're just accepted for who you are. Nobody's interested in what house you have, how big is your car, what job do you do. There's a wholesomeness, isn't there, to the group, and it's quite a tight-knit community, and it's a lovely, trying to think of the word, it's kind of a sharing venue where you're allowed to be vulnerable, and you're allowed to say, well, I've experienced this, and it's led me on this path, and this dark night of the soul took me in a different direction to life. Because I think we kind of get conditioned, and certainly, oh darling, you know, baby, it's a British thing, we need to have a big house and a big car and 2.2 children, and you know, life isn't like that, because no river will run in a straight line. A river will always meander. And I think really, to me, one of the big things in life is that as children, certainly, we're so influential at school. And to me, if we were taught to encompass and allow change in our lives, life would probably be a lot easier for us. How do you feel with that?
Yeah, I feel that it's kind of important to follow your heart and be led by your heart. And I feel more in the flow. I don't, you know, I'm not bound by needing to earn X to pay Y. You know, there's still a little bit of fear around money, but as long as I keep following my path and my passion, then I feel everything will take care of itself. Everything else will take care of itself, as long as I'm staying true to myself and living my heart-centered life and following passion. That is I think excitement of life is the organising factor of your life, and will bring in everything else you need.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, for me, if I feel that I've got a dilemma or a challenge or a situation coming up, I may meditate on it. Obviously, like yourself, I know a lot of holistic therapists, and I may well give a friend a phone or go within. And very often when we just put our hand on the heart center and just shut our eyes and really go within, because you said something really profound before, most of us are in our head. And I used to be definitely very, very much in my head. And going more and more deeply into the heart center, because as you lift off the blocks, you kind of deepen. And sometimes within spirituality, you kind of start with a question, and then that leads to another question and another question. And I remember some very dear friends of mine in Switzerland saying, the more you know in this game, the less you know. And anybody who says they know everything is just deluded or arrogant. But how do you kind of go inside yourself? For me, a walk in nature, sitting with my back against a tree, or I remember the other night I'd been out at some friends, and they'd very kindly shared a barbecue with me, and we had a laugh and a joke, and it was lovely. And I kind of went home, and I just thought, you know, I just want to lie on my back and look up at the moon and the stars. So I went in the garden, lay on the bench, and it was really quite peaceful, and it was really quiet because no one was around. What do you do that really kind of floats your boat, that makes you feel beautiful inside? Because I know the satisfaction you get from synchronicity is massive anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it is massive, and it definitely doesn't feel like I'm working when I'm doing it, and that is, I know I'm doing the right thing, and I'm living through my heart with synchronicity, and it's kind of things like that where I feel just joyous in the moment, because living in the moment is, you know, where we can all benefit from. And synchronicity does that for me. When I play tennis, it does that for me. It keeps me in the moment. It's kind of like my meditation, tennis. When I'm playing tennis, I'm completely focused. I'm in the zone. It's being with other like-minded people, being with loving people, laughter, having fun, and all these things have one thing in common, which is being in the moment. And when you don't want to be anywhere else but in that moment, that's how I want to live. I want to be in the moment as much as possible. And, you know, I hold my hands up and I'm honest and say, I still live in my head sometimes.
I think we all do, Dave, to be fair.
Absolutely.
I think it's easy to go backwards sometimes. Yeah. And I think then you get the appreciation of coming out of the head and thinking, what was I doing? And kind of, just working through that.
I do. You know, I live in the head a lot less, but it's still there. And I know I still have wounds that I'm carrying through from the past, and it's acknowledging them. And interestingly enough, I've learned a lot about these wounds and my behaviours, especially through something called Real Love. What happened was at one of the synchronicity events, a guy called Pete Uglow, who is the Real Love UK coach, came and did a talk, and in that talk, he explained about real love, and real love is just looking at the true meaning of unconditional love, because a lot of people have the idea about love that it's a kind of Mills and Boon, Moonlight and Roses scenario.
Is it not?
If you want it to be, absolutely. But I'm starting to learn what love actually is all about. And it's caring about someone else's happiness without wanting anything in return. That's what I'm finding out. And you cannot do that when the moment you want something from someone else, or you're in need of someone and something else. And what became apparent to me was, although I had all this spiritual awareness, I still carried through my emotional blocks. And I tried many healing modalities to get rid of the emotional blocks, but there's a lot of very, very dense ones and heavy ones that still remain. And what I learned through Real Love was the understanding that the sole reason for all our pain, all our suffering, is that we didn't get unconditional love, which is the love we need. The only love that's worth talking about, we didn't get it when we were kids. Our parents didn't get it, their parents didn't get it. It's been passed, so the original message of love has been passed down, almost like Chinese whispers. And now we have a completely upside down, topsy-turvy idea of what love truly is. And so now I'm going through a process where I can be vulnerable, I can express my behaviours and flaws and mistakes, and actually turn to a set of people who can completely accept me and love me for no matter what. Which is actually the opposite message we got as children. When we made mistakes, the message we got was we weren't lovable. So now I'm starting to undo that message and feel loved by my mistakes. And that kind of in itself dissipates a lot of the wounds. A lot still remain, working through them constantly. It's a lifelong journey.
I think it's very, very profound, actually, what you've said, Dave. And I think certainly as a mother and as a grandma, I think that unconditional love, you know, my granddaughter, she'll just, Grandma, I really love you. And nothing ever in the world will come near that, just that loving embrace. And I know from the friendships I've had, you know, through friends I've met at Synchronicity, and that's the beauty of the kind of people that we mix with. And yes, maybe that's on our law of attraction, because certainly for both of us, when we first started on this journey, we were maybe attracting people who weren't as heart-centered as, you know, we are now. But we've got probably about 4 minutes left. So I think, you know, heart-centered living, heart-centered lives. And I think exactly what you said, and that's a very powerful thing, that, you know, we need to feel loved. No one on the planet can get through life without being loved, without wanting to be nurtured. And I think, you know, when you cradle a baby in the arms, that child is right up against our heart center. Now, the scientists have measured the energy on the heart center, and that radiates 50,000 times faster than anywhere else. There are experiments that have been done where the heart center can intuit things before the brain. And I just think that maybe, you know, the next time we cuddle a baby in our arms, or the next time we want someone, or we give a hug to someone on that heart center, maybe next time we think about something, you know, a challenge or a situation, when we come from the heart, when we are clear about our intention of what we want from that situation, maybe an argument or a family upset, but when we meditate on it, and it's just, I would love a whole heart-centered outcome, not an expectation. I think that's very important, because very often we have expectations, attachments and conditions to the outcomes. I love you if you look nice on a Friday night. I love you if you earn lots of money. I love you if you're always nice to me. But we have times, good days and bad days. And I know recently, you know, you saw me and I wasn't in the best of places. I just had a huge emotional realization, and, you know, you held my space, and for that I will always be grateful. And I think that, you know, people like yourself, you are living a dynamic life. You are making changes to people. So can you just mention something, you know, just about the synchronicity? That's advertised on Facebook, isn't it? And you have your own website?
I haven't got a website, but I'm on Facebook, Dave Binder on Facebook, and it's on Meetup as well. And my email address, which is davebinder, BINDER 123@hotmail.com. So if anyone's interested and wants to come and join in, email me, find me on Facebook.
And it is open to everybody, isn't
Absolutely,
it? Just
anyone,
to make that plain.
anyone whatsoever. Yeah, there's no segregation. It's completely inclusive. And I would say that the last thing I'd like to say is that we often live life with an attitude of what can we take, but if we actually start live with the attitude of what can we give,
what can we give?
then the world will start living in harmony.
Well, thank you, Dave. You've been an absolute inspiration, as you always are. I always love spending time with you, because I think when we surround ourselves with the right kind of people, it keeps us in the right kind of space. And because I know I can be vulnerable and I can be myself, I can wear all my different hats with you, and equally I would hope that you feel that with me. That to me is true living, and that to me is living a dynamic life. So thank you, Dave. And thank you, viewers. I hope you've really enjoyed that interview. I certainly have, even though I've known Dave for quite some time now. So hopefully I look forward to you tuning in to Living a Dynamic Life next week. And remember the email if you want any further information. Dave's details will be on there, info@umarchannel.tv. Thank you.